Mangwana ni malelepo vukenjani klekbas avanave Africa. Welcome to Africa. Good morning. The news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know on the African continent and beyond. We're going to be digging into the latest in Guinea with regards to a referendum date. In Gabon, Brice Oligui Nguema seeks democratic legitimacy in a post-coup election. The DRC reduces death sentences for 3 Americans involved in a failed coup attempt. African Union mediators arrive in South Sudan to rescue a fragile peace deal. Ethiopian Airlines air taxi project sparks debate on Africa's transport future. Plus, get the latest updates in the South Africa report with Arrie Hougaard. Watch Africa Good Morning on DStv 285, GOtv 25, 1up2.com, and Network Media Hub on YouTube. Top stories shortly.
Welcome to Namibia, where adventure meets tranquility. With Enjoy, you have access to a wide range of accommodations to suit every traveler's taste and budget. Experience the finest dining and hospitality Namibia has to offer. Booking your dream accommodation is just a few clicks away with Enjoy. Join thousands of happy travelers who have trusted Enjoy for their Namibian getaway. Your gateway to unforgettable Namibian adventures. Visit us today at enjoy.my.na.
Let's get into our top stories on Africa. Good morning. Guinea's military leader Mamadi Doumbouya has set September 21, 2025 as the date for constitutional referendum, according to a decree announced on state television, in what could be a crucial step toward a return to civilian rule. Doumbouya, who seized power in a coup in September 2021, initially proposed a 2-year transition to elections in 2022, but failed to organize a vote, missing the junta's self-imposed December 31, 2024 deadline for restoring civilian governance. The bauxite and iron ore producing nation is one of several in West Africa where the military has taken control and delayed a return to democracy. In July last year, the junta introduced a draft constitution, raising speculation that he might participate in future elections. Authorities have stated that a referendum on the draft constitution is necessary before any presidential election can take place. Meanwhile, Guinea's 2 former ruling parties remain suspended, and the leading opposition party, the Union of Democratic Forces of Guinea, is under government surveillance, further casting doubt on the prospects for a free and fair transition to democracy and indeed civilian rule. Gabon's Brice Oligui Nguema, who seized power in a 2023 coup, aims to transition from junta leader to democratically elected president in the April 12 election, leveraging his anti-corruption campaign and incumbency advantages. The general, who ousted his cousin Ali Bongo, is favored to win against main challenger Alain Claude Billy Bainzer, despite scrutiny over his own finances, including allegations of purchasing U.S. properties with cash. While Nguema has maintained close ties with France, unlike other African juntas distancing from former colonial powers, his new constitution and graft crackdown have gained public support. Analysts question the election's fairness and whether his reforms will deepen once he secures civilian power, as he seeks to legitimize his rule after promising a return to democracy. 3 Americans sentenced to death for their role in a failed coup attempt in the Democratic Republic of Congo last year have had their sentences commuted to life imprisonment by President Felix Tshisekedi, just ahead of a visit by U.S. Senior Advisor for Africa Masad Bolos. The trio, Marcel Balanga Malou, Tyler Thompson, and Zauman Polun Benjamin, were among 37 people convicted in a military trial for their involvement in the May 2023 attack on the presidential palace and an ally's home, which left 6 dead, including alleged plot leader Christian Malanga. While the U.S. has not declared them wrongfully detained, diplomatic talks preceded the clemency decision, though it remains unclear if they will serve their sentences in the U.S. or if other foreign convicts will receive similar leniency. The ruling comes as DR Congo maintains a de facto moratorium on executions despite lifting it officially earlier this year. And African Union mediators arrived in South Sudan's capital, Juba, yesterday to prevent a new civil war after First Vice President Riek Machar was placed under house arrest last week. President Salva Kiir's government accused Machar, a former rebel leader who fought in the 2013 to 2018 civil war, of inciting rebellion following recent clashes in the northern Upper Nile state between the military and the White Army militia. The AU delegation, including former Burundian President Domitien Ndayizeye and ex-Kenyan Judge Arrie Hougaard, was welcomed by Machar's SPLMIO party as part of peace efforts. The AU's Peace and Security Council called for Machar's immediate release, warning that his detention threatens the 2018 peace deal that ended the war. Meanwhile, Kenya's former Prime Minister Raila Odinga attempted to mediate but was denied access to Machar. Analysts suggest Kiir, 73, is consolidating power amid internal political unrest, while the war in neighboring Sudan has worsened South Sudan's security situation by increasing the flow of weapons. The 2013 to 2018 war, which killed hundreds of thousands, was largely fought along ethnic lines, with Kiir's Dinka forces opposing Machar's Nuer-backed rebels. Those have been our top stories on Africa. Good morning. Shortly, we're going to be talking to Arrie Hougaard about everything stemming out of South Africa, at least everything that is relevant. But prior to that, let's have a look at the weather. It's time for us to cross over to South Africa to our correspondent Arrie Hougaard as he delivers the South Africa report. Good morning, Arrie. How are you?
Yes, very good morning, Ashwin. Nice to talk to you. We've had budget going on here, but we hope it's a positive one coming up for us.
All right, let's get straight into it, Arrie. The government of national unity faced a significant test of its cohesion and partnerships yesterday in Parliament, where the Standing Committee on Finance presented the fiscal framework for the 2025 budget. Do take us through it.
Yes, the big day yesterday was the Standing Committee on Finance that tabled the fiscal framework. So it was changed the scenery a little bit when Action SA sided with the ANC. Obviously, as we know, the discussions in Parliament is built around the Government of National Unity. And in the Government of National Unity, the word unity means that the ANC and the DA are unified there as the government. But there were obviously disagreements, and that was well documented when the budget was tabled from the beginning. So the big challenge was we had weeks and weeks of discussions, and it mostly was around the 0.5% VAT hike that was suggested in the budget by Minister Enoch Godongwana. That just actually equates to 1% over 2 years. It was strange to see the parties opposing that. That's four parties that will normally don't see arguing for the same points or the same issues. And that was the DA, also the EFF, the MK party of former President Jacob Zuma, and then the Freedom Front. So those four parties, I think it's the first time ever that they've kind of lobbied for the same thing in the same direction. The argument was just they're looking after the man in the street and say that 1% VAT over 2 years will negatively benefit the man in the street, especially the poorer part of South Africa. What's happened now, there was a vote, and the vote, the tabling of the fiscal framework was approved. So on Friday, the Minister of Finance, Mr. Ido Konondwane, will table then that the 1% VAT over the 2 years will be implemented. So that's quite a big discussion point. What the DA has said, they claim that the report that was tabled was not correct in terms of legislation. So they say they will go to court. So in short, what it meant was that the DA said that there needs to be more time spent on expenditure and just how the money is spent, and maybe cut on certain components of the budget, more control. And so the ANC said that it was not a good experience for them to see the DA not working with them in this process. So that's the second point briefly, is that the government of national unity is actually under pressure now. So it's not good when you're not agreeing in the boardroom. I think there must still be space for both parties to argue points, and they think that's what happened. But it's clearly that some relationships have been challenged. That's President Ramaphosa and John Steenhuisen. So hopefully they can still smile and have a handshake like that after all of this is done. But it's going to the court. So it is the ANC Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, that said that definitely they have to relook at this whole government of national unity. It changed the configuration of that. So hopefully it will not put more pressure on the South African economy. It's important that there would be unity, but there was definitely a big disagreement on how the budget should be rolled out. Maybe a good thing. Nobody was used to this discussion. So in the past, it was just put on the table and approved. Now there was discussion. So hopefully there will be positives, but it's definitely a situation where both sides had to give in on certain aspects. At the moment, we have a budget. Before it was tabled, you could allow 45% of that to be rolled out. So hopefully all things will go well. Just linked to that briefly, Ashwin, is an announcement by President Donald Trump in the USA. That was late Namibian and South African time yesterday. That's about tariff increases. So we know there's been lots of things happening from that side, but that's also putting lots of pressure on South Africa. So South Africa has been hit by a 30% tariff hike, so to speak, from the United States. That is on products that South Africa export to the USA. That would include products like minerals, gold and platinum, for instance. South Africa is one of the biggest markets for yachts, exporting yachts. Also, wine industry, there's agriculture. All of that slapped with a 30% tariff increase. South Africa not alone. There's 60 other countries as well. Actually, Namibia as well. Namibia has been hit by 21%. I don't know why not 20, but it's 21% tariff. Around us, Lesotho by 50%. Mauritius also 40%. So all over the place, it's higher tariffs. The AGOA that we briefly saw there was the agreement, the Sub-Saharan agreement with America that's been going on for 25 years. That's ending in September. Seems like that will probably go ahead, but with high tariffs for all countries included in that AGOA agreement. So that's not good news for exports from South Africa into the United States. Globally, China 34%, so South Africa not alone. Britain stayed at 10%, Brazil 37%. So just to give an indication that mostly all over the globe, tariffs have been increased. But that specific one for South Africa, 30% straight, is not good for the economy and for exports for South Africa.
All right, moving into your sport, Arrie. The South African men's cricket team is on the hunt for a new one-day coach after Rob Waters unexpectedly revealed his decision to step down.
It was sudden. Hopefully, within the structures of cricket, it was maybe discussed leading up to that. It was just announced on Tuesday. That is Rob Waters. So he's been the one-day coach. Globally around the world, the tendency is to have a coach for the test team, separate from your white ball cricket, they call it, your team that plays in T20 cricket and 50 over one-day cricket. So Rob Waters did well, but South Africa's got a reputation now of doing well, getting into finals, like unfortunately the T20 World Cup final in the West Indies, they lost against India. Those are some of the players. It's said that Shruti Conrad, the current test coach, is got a very good relationship with Themba Bavuma there on the left. He's the captain and also captain the 50-over team, and not often in the T20 team though. But there's speculation that Shuki Conrad can take over all three responsibilities. What's next for white ball cricket for South Africa is a triangular in Zimbabwe. That will be in July, and that the other team playing in that with Zimbabwe and South Africa will be New Zealand. So that's the first one coming up. But probably it will just be Shuki Conrad that take over that responsibility. And then also it is Two Oceans time. It is this coming weekend. Behind me is the Table Mountain. They run Two Oceans basically in the ultra marathon, starting in Cape Town, going across behind Table Mountain. So it's the Two Oceans marathon. It's the elite marathon. Way back lots of years ago when I was a little bit more fit, I did the 56-kilometer once. Amazing experience, one of my best experiences ever in terms of that. It's tough, but it's so amazing with all the support around you. So that's what it looks like. That's Chapman's Peak. You go up Chapman's Peak, Houtbaai on the left there. You can just imagine running up there, the scenery on your left. You're tired, but that's an amazing run. So what's happening just in terms of Saturday, the 56th, there's a Sunday, there's a half marathon. That's Gerda Steyn. She won the previous one, and she's going to be the big favorite again. But the men's winner, it was Ololene Konkorbe. He won the men's race last year, but there's report that he's fell sick. So he might not even start and defend his title this year. So warmer weather, unfortunately, for Cape Town. Maybe good, maybe not that good. It's 28 degrees for Saturday, which is a bit warm for 56 kilometers, but at least not too warm, not in the 30s. But on Sunday, it's going to be 30 degrees. At least they only do a 21, so hopefully they get it done quickly. But great weather, so lots of Namibians also coming down for that one. And I'll speak to them over the weekend as they start and finish, hopefully, the Two Oceans over the weekend.
Well, Arrie, I'll make sure I catch the Two Oceans next year. You can bank on it. Now, Kimberley, a city in the Northern Cape, stands out as a distinctive tourism destination, boasting the Big Hole as a key attraction alongside a remarkably historic pub that offers visitors a unique experience. Tell us more, Arrie.
Yes, it's a unique tourist attraction that happened obviously more than 100 years ago, because people saw a way of making a living. And that's a viewpoint there from the massive hole. So it's unique. They applying still for that to be a heritage site. So the Big Hole, it started from 1871. They realized that there's diamonds there. It was a little koppie, a little bit of a hill. And they dug that out and they made a hole. It's 463 meters wide and 240 meters deep. What makes it unique, it is by pick and shovel. You must think back to 1871. So it was excavated by hand. So it's a big hole in Kimberley. It's a big attraction for tourists. There you can see it, how big it is. You can imagine that was done by pick and shovel by hand. 50,000 people that worked over that time from 1871 till 1914. To do that. The city centre is right on the edge there, which is a little bit dangerous, I suppose. But if you think back over that time, there were lots of diamonds there. 2,720 kilograms of diamonds that was excavated there, 13 million carats. And that's a pub. That pub is the Star of the West that you briefly saw there. That is where it goes back 153 years. So the Star of the West pub and restaurant still exists. So if you visit Kimberley, go see the Big Hole, but then go to the Star of the West. There you can sit down like the miners did 150 years ago, order a beer, maybe have a steak, and you can think back about those tough times probably, where everybody was trying to earn a good living from diamonds. So now it's a place that we can visit. It's a good spot for tourists. Unique place, Kimberley in the Northern Cape in the middle of the country. Worth a visit when you drive through there.
More reasons to expedite that visit. Thank you very much, Arrie, for bringing us the South Africa report.
It's a big pleasure, Ashwin, and I'm going to take you up on that one for Two Oceans next year. We can do it together. That would be amazing.
I trust you will. You're still with Africa Good Morning. We're going to take a quick break before we return with economic news. Let's get into the economic news story. Ethiopian Airlines air taxi deal. Are flying cars becoming a reality in Africa? Well, let's talk about it. Flying cars have long been a symbol of the future, often imagined as a solution to traffic congestion. But while personal aerial vehicles remain distant for most, small air taxis are becoming a reality. Companies like Whisk and Xpeng Motors have made strides in advanced air mobility, and in 2025, Ethiopian Airlines partnered with US-based Archer Aviation to develop an electric air taxi service in Africa. The airline plans to use Archer's Midnight aircraft, a 4-passenger electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicle designed for quick consecutive short-haul flights with minimal recharge time. The project aims to revolutionize urban travel by reducing 60 to 90-minute car commutes to 10 to 20-minute air taxi rides, cutting traffic congestion and lowering carbon emissions. Ethiopian Airlines hopes this initiative will serve as a model for other African cities facing similar transport challenges. While obstacles such as infrastructure, legislation, and cost remain, this move signals a shift toward integrating air mobility into Africa's daily transportation system, potentially helping to mitigate climate issues like flood and drought-induced food shortages. That has been our economic news story on Africa Good Morning. Do let us know what you think about the potentiality of flying taxis. But first, have a look at the indicators. Thank you for staying with Africa Good Morning throughout the broadcast as we brought you stories from across the African continent, including the South Africa Report with Arrie Hougaard. From me, Ashim Berry, and the Africa Good Morning team, DStv 285, GOtv 25, 1am2.com, and Network Media Hub is where you can find us every single weekday. Swera Jaganaka.